Right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Folks are still going to be trickling in, but we're going to get started. So for today, thanks everyone for joining us. If we could do some chat box introductions, we're just going to have you do your name, preferred pronouns, Hubbard organization, and then share one thing you're looking forward to this week. I can get started. My name is Maria Mendoza, Early Learning Hub System Analyst, and I'm looking forward to the weekend. I feel like I'm just going to enjoy the last little bit of summer and some warm weather and just good family time. So, just looking forward to that all week. And I will read a couple in the chat if anyone drops them in. Danny Sam Thomas, Early Learning Hub of Clackamas County. I'm looking forward to the summer being over and the heat being over when this week ends. That's fair, Danny. That's fair. Rod from Eastern Oregon. And Friday, you're looking forward to Friday. That's a good one. Liz Farrar Campbell, she, her, chair of the Early Learning Council. Looking forward to cooler temperatures. Yes. Abby from Northwest, my son's first fall baseball game on Sunday. Oh, that's a great one. And then we have Krissa from the Early Learning Hub of Central Oregon. Looking forward to kiddos being back in the swing of school. That's a good one. All right, there's a couple more in the chat. Feel free to check them out. And with that, I'm going to hand it to Nancy to get us through the agenda.
Thanks, Maria, and welcome everyone. Let's get started with Gabby and Chair Farrar Campbell. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Nancy. Hey, everyone. Gabby Hernandez. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Early Learning Council Administrator. And here today to introduce Liz, which I know many of you already know. But Liz, our new chair of the Early Learning Council, and we just wanted to take some time to come connect with you all, and then just give an update on just council membership and share our upcoming meeting schedule through the end of the year. So with that, I will pass it to Chair Farrar Campbell.
Hi guys. So many familiar faces, but I will go ahead and introduce myself for anyone new. I'm Liz Farrar Campbell. I am from the east side of the state over in Gillum County here in Condon, and especially looking forward to temperatures not in the 90s sometime soon, hopefully. So I think we'll just kick off with the slides, Gabby, and then I wanted to share just a little bit about beyond that, kind of some of at least one of my priorities that's emerging that I wanted to sort of share and kick things off.
Yes, Nancy, I think it might have sent you something for permission. I'm just gonna
I
see if
just
it'll let me.
granted permission, but let me see if I need to do something again.
Okay, never mind. I got it.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
I just wanted to start off just by sharing sort of where we are with council membership. I, as you all know, started on the council about 2 years ago, and in June, the governor's office asked if I would consider stepping into the chairmanship. So still trying to really think about how to fill the very big shoes that Sue Miller left behind with her incredible tenure. So Sue's seat is still open, and at some point, hopefully in the next couple of months, the governor will be looking to fill that. And so I would just put out, if you know of someone in your community who you think would be a great council member, please reach out and connect with Gabby, and she can get the information for how to get names into the governor's office for that process. And then I think you probably at this point know most of the council members were from all over the state, representing all of the congressional districts and several at-large members, and then a variety of backgrounds from business to philanthropy to healthcare to all kinds of stuff. And then, of course, we have our director agency partners there on the right-hand side. You guys may have heard that Fairbourse is retiring, so we'll welcome a new director at ODHS later this fall. But I think you guys probably at this point are pretty well grounded in who the council members are. Gabby, do you want to move on to the next one, please? And then this is just a sort of grounding in what the Early Learning Council does. As you know, that we are the governing body responsible for the administrative rulemaking for DELC. So I think you guys are pretty familiar with that, particularly given the hub rules that were just passed by the council a couple meetings back. The part that I think most of the council members came to the work is sort of the broader picture system of coordinating a unified and aligned system of early learning. Really, I view as the counterpart to what you guys are doing on the ground within your communities. The council is charged with sort of looking statewide at how do we get partners and systems aligned to best serve young children and their families. And the other thing that I really appreciate about that is, in particular, when I'm meeting with the agency directors, some of them, you know, ODHS and OHA in particular, have such broad sort of responsibility and bodies of work that it's nice to have something set aside on their calendars where they just think about kiddos 0 to 5 and their families and what those unique needs look like. So, so anyway, I think that's probably one of the better parts, I think, of what the council does. Let's go on to the next one. This is just showing our upcoming meetings for the rest of the year. I wanted to note that September meeting is actually October 2nd through a variety of scheduling things and ledge days and other things that we are trying to schedule around. So it's actually on a Thursday and not a Wednesday. And it's actually in October and not September, just to totally throw people off. I am really excited about this meeting though, so I wanted to sort of flag what we're going to be talking about, encourage you to join if you have time to listen in. It's going to be centered on childcare, but specifically we're going to be talking about coalition building. So we've invited folks from Vermont and Colorado to come and share their models for engaging the business community in particular in their childcare advocacy. In Colorado specifically, they've both engaged folks in terms of advocacy at their legislature, but they're also doing work at the very local level and partnering directly with businesses who are interested in addressing childcare for their workforce and within their communities. So I'm excited to sort of hear from them lessons learned and maybe see if there's some nuggets in there that might be useful for continuing the work in Oregon. And then we'll also hear from some statewide partners talking about some of the work that's happening in Oregon, and then Douglas County's Child Care Coalition and Biz for Kids, their counterpart on the business side, going to be there to also share some of the work that they're doing locally. So we'll kind of get a full spectrum picture of some national examples, sort of what's already happening within the state, and then a snapshot of sort of one example of what's happening at the very local level. Then the council is scheduled in late October to get together in Salem for our Early Learning Council retreat. That one is not live streamed, but we'll have minutes and things posted. And I think we'll probably, one of the things that council usually does is kind of sets priorities and figures out where we want to focus our time and energy. And so I think there'll likely be opportunities for us coming out of the retreat to engage with this group and talk about some of the things that council would like to prioritize and get some feedback from you all as well on the path forward. And then in November, we've got a placeholder for some rulemaking meeting. And then the last meeting of the year will be December 10th before we pick things up check in January. Getting ready for the short session. I can't believe that's already coming. So the other thing I just wanted to mention, we can go out of the slides if you want, Gabby, is so my own priority, you may have picked up in where the meeting in October is, and is that I am really interested in exploring ways to strengthen coalition building for childcare, specifically in engaging the business community. I feel like this last session in particular, we have obviously some amazing advocates that are coming and approaching this from the childcare perspective and child development side. And it feels like we still have some voices that are not at the table that I think would make our case stronger. And so my goal over the next 18 months leading into the long session is to really dig into ways to have business more strongly join the conversation, both at a statewide level and also at a local level. So one of the things I sort of always come with what are next steps, because that's just in my nature. And so the sort of two maybe requests I have for you all is if there is a local childcare coalition already stood up in your region, or even just the beginning talkings, maybe it's not an official, but there's a few people talking. I would love to know that. The first thing I think that we're going to do to approach this work, Gabby and I are trying to figure out how to map who's already doing the work and where they're located, and get a chance to talk to folks who are doing the work to find out where the council can fit in and help support what's already happening, and then fill in gaps where there are. I think, Gabby, if you don't mind dropping my email and then my virtual assistant link. So I'll put my email in here, and then I'll also put my virtual assistant link in there, which is if you ever want or need to get on my calendar, please use it for this or anything else. You can set up a meeting with me. So that would be the first ask. If you already have something happening or you know of, please flag those for us so we can sort of get it on our overall map of what's happening in the state for coalitions. And then number two is if you have ideas for how we might approach this work, ways that the council, gaps that you're seeing that the council may be able to help fill in or make connections, it would be very helpful to surface those as well. One of the things I'm going to ask the council to think about during the retreat is really diving into some concrete next steps for us to take in coalition building. And so if you have some ideas or places where you see that there's some misconnections or opportunities, I'd love to hear from you first walking into that retreat, so that I can share some ideas with the council members to think about and prioritize during our retreat. And I think that was all I really wanted to cover. I'm happy to take questions and engage however you like, but I also want to be respectful of the rest of your agenda.
I know we had a question in the agenda for hub directors, and the question was, how would you like hubs to continue meeting and interacting with council? So if folks have ideas, this would be a good space to share it. Renee's saying she's looking forward to some great conversations regarding childcare. Anyone else? I don't see any other questions. But thank you so much, Liz and Gabby, for joining us. It's an exciting direction that you're going in. So we'll all stay tuned for more. Oh, and Shira says, thank you, Liz. You've done so much for Gilliam County. I'm excited to see how your enthusiasm can support the rest of the state. That's great. Okay, thank you. I guess we will move on. So next we'll pass it along to Becky Griffin for an update on the community systems team. Becky?
Hi, yeah, thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Maria. Hello, directors. Hello, Chair Farrar Campbell. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to see everybody. I hope you've all just had the most wonderful summer. And yeah, I just wanted to throw a few community systems team updates your way. Karina, if you wouldn't mind pulling up the slides. One of you, I appreciated your feedback that it is helpful to get updates, to also have some slides or visuals to go along with that. So we'll try to incorporate that into future updates as much as we can. But yeah, if you want to go on to that first update slide, that would be great. So first off, I'm so happy to introduce you all to Sydney Brown. On August 18th, we welcomed Sydney to DELC as our new coordinated enrollment analyst. The question had come up before about whether the name analyst as opposed to manager indicated any change in the role or classification, and it does not. It's still based exactly on the same recruitment. We just had an internal requirement to not be providing the title of manager to those that aren't directly supervising other staff. But Sydney and our coordinated enrollment specialist, Mel Hanna, will be partnering to serve as DELC's core coordinated enrollment team. And in this role, Sydney will be leading the strategic planning and design of our state's early childhood coordinated enrollment system. And she'll be providing consultative advice on the administrative, policy, programmatic, and management aspects of our agency operations related to coordinated enrollment system. Sydney brings over a decade of experience in public and nonprofit sector leadership. She has a strong background in project management, policy analysis, program evaluation, community engagement, strategic planning, and complex cross-sector initiatives. And most recently, she served as Senior Anti-Hunger Policy Advisor in the Maine Governor's Office. She unfortunately isn't here with us today to meet you all, but will plan to and is looking forward to joining you all for your monthly one-on-one check-ins this month with Nancy and Maria, and in joining us in future monthly Hub Director meetings as well. Sydney is passionate about building inclusive systems that center community voice and equity, and she's excited to be bringing her skills back to Oregon. Okay, Karina, can we go to the next slide, please? And with that said, we are back into hiring again. So our team is going to be hiring for a community systems coordinator program analyst 2 position. That posting just went live on Friday, and as soon as I'm done giving you updates, we'll send a link for that posting as well. But the primary purpose of this new position will be to support strategic collaboration and alignment across the Community Systems Office at DELC, to help coordinate our internal initiatives and support the integrated implementation of community systems projects, both within and across teams. And my hope or my plan is for the person in this position to help us to build capacity within our office, to strengthen communication between our internal teams and with our regional system partners, and to advance efforts to identify, document, and share promising practices that can inform early learning system policy and improve system performance. So the key duties for this position will be, again, that supportive role for our community systems team functions, a great deal of project management and special projects coordination, as well as some additional administrative support for our team. And then that promising practice sharing and statewide learning, as well as supporting our team around our partner engagement and technical assistance coordination. So happy to share more about the position with anybody who would like additional info. And again, I'll share the link in a moment. But if you know anybody that you think might be a good fit, please don't hesitate to send that information their way or my way. Thank you. And okay, next update is that we have received some really great questions from you all regarding the implementation of the new early learning administrative rules. So thank you so much for those questions. Nancy and Maria have been compiling them along with answers to provide an FAQ for you that will be coming soon. And the question log will remain open through the end of the year. So as we go into the actual implementation, if additional questions or as they continue to arise, please continue to use that tool, and we will update our FAQ as appropriate. And I believe that you all have gotten that link several times, but I'll throw that back into the chat as well when I'm done with my updates for the form. Okay, our next update that we wanted to share for you is that our Director Chatterjee, will be on leave from September 1st through January 4th. And so just wanting to let you know that during that time, Carrie McCann, our Policy and Strategy Director, will serve as interim director in her absence, with support from our Deputy Director of Operations, Cooper Brown, and our Deputy Director of Programs, Joel Metlin. Okay, and I believe we have one final update from me. Okay. And so you should have received invitations. You're invited to attend one of 2 Early Learning Hub kickoff meetings, which Nancy and Maria have scheduled for Monday, October 20th and Thursday, October 23rd. And the purpose of the kickoff meetings is to learn about highlights and changes to the upcoming grant agreement and to provide an opportunity for questions and conversation. So the meetings are identical, so you can just accept the meeting time that works best for you and for your schedule. And we do ask that every Hub director attend one of those sessions. Backbone representatives are also invited to attend on an optional basis. So please feel free to forward that meeting invite to any relevant Hub or Backbone staff who you think might also benefit from attending. And meeting materials will be sent out in advance, and Nancy and Maria will also be recording the meetings. So if you have additional questions about that, please reach out to Nancy and Maria. The draft grant agreement is currently under review with DOJ, and we will circle back with you when we have the final timeline for getting that grant draft out to you. Let's see. I think that was my last slide. Is that right, Karina? Okay, great. Nancy, Maria, was there anything else you wanted me to touch on today?
Yeah, I see a question from Renee in the chat. It says, Becky, would one example, I think regarding the position description, would one example be better coordination and alignment between Preschool Promise and coordinated enrollment teams at DELC?
Yes, Renee, thank you. Yeah, exactly. Just really helping us to work as we take steps to align all of the work that we're doing across offices, especially work that touches so closely on multiple offices internally and projects.
We have time for some questions if anybody wanted to follow up with Becky on any of the things that she shared. I am not seeing any questions.
If you think of anything after, please feel free to use I was gonna say exit survey log, but I don't think that's what it's called. What is it? What's the
The
feedback?
exit survey. Yeah,
Oh, good. Okay,
you were close.
good. Okay.
Thank you so much, Becky. Appreciate that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And now we'll move on to an update from Dana and Paulina from Tribal Affairs, and they have some updates to share with us.
Yeah, I don't think Paulina's here yet, because we're running
Like a bit early.
a bit. Yeah, so let me send her a message real quick and see if she can hop on and we can get started.
Thanks, Dana. Charlotte, it's so nice to see your friend there. Seeing Chris's question, quick question, will the hub kickoff meetings be focused primarily on grant agreements? Just wondering if I should invite our grant manager to attend. And the answer to that, Krista, is yes, it's primarily going to be focusing on the highlights and changes to the grant agreement from last biennium. So yes, I think it would be a good idea to invite your grant manager, and I'll ask Carla if she'd like to add anything to that question. Oh, she may have stepped away for a minute, but I think that should suffice.
Nope, just lost my Zoom screen.
Oh, okay.
So I couldn't unmute myself. No, that actually sufficed perfectly. We'll be going over all of the changes, edits, highlighting things to make sure that you guys know. So yeah, feel free to invite anyone that you think would be find the information useful.
Nancy, I haven't heard back yet. So do you want to, is it possible to move to the next item and then circle back to us when Paulina joins?
Oh, sure. Let me check and see if, yes, let's pause for just a minute. I'll bring Alma in. That sounds fine. Thanks, Dana.
Or not yet?
Not yet.
Okay, let's try it one more time.
Okay. Yes, now we can see it.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you again for having the CCAP unit come to your meeting and present. We were we had hoped to present this before for the ERDC fall waitlist refresh. We had hoped to present before it actually went into place, but we couldn't get scheduling in, and I know you were off for about 2 months off of meetings. I say that, not work. Nonetheless, we're glad to be here. And so we wanted to give everyone information about the ERDC fall waitlist refresh that was conducted. And just a brief presentation of the whys and how we're doing this. Historically, the waitlist was was in place for no more than 10 months per year, and that was prior to us transferring to DELC. It was designed for short-term purposes and relied on families losing either eligibility or not recertifying. And then we would move families that were on the existing wait list and then invite them to apply. So it's more like of an attrition thing that we handled it before. Again, the program, of course, is no longer what it used to be at ODHS as far as its availability and who's eligible for it now. So what does this mean? So the changes that, excuse me, were made to make ERDC easier is we included students to access childcare. So anyone that is a student in college and if they require childcare, then they may apply. Before, that was not an option. Providers and parents will understand the benefits. We included TANF families to access care as well. So any family receiving TANF, childcare is available for them. And then we also want families to maintain their benefits. We certify them for 12 months. And so we hope that they access those services during that time and that they recertify timely. So we have some here of total number of families in the ERDC, and you kind of see through the years some data here as far as the total that are connected to providers. So the bypass, who bypasses? Those that are reapplying for the ERDC. Again, the timely recertification of their benefits is crucial here. Families who receive or recently received TANF benefits within the last 2 months, then they can bypass the wait list. Families eligible for domestic violence survivors grant through ODHS, they are eligible to bypass the wait list. Those with a referral from child welfare, and families with children entering a contracted child care slot. So they will bypass, and eligibility workers go through this wait list in their one system when they're determining eligibility and seeing if any of these apply for families to bypass. So some facts that we know through the caseload, it hasn't dropped. It's held steady since it was implemented in November of 2023. And due to program funding, DELC determined the waitlist will be in place long-term. Again, we've never experienced this for long-term. It's a whole different program now than what we were used to managing over there at ODHS. Oregon has never managed a long-term waitlist before. So this was really, they threw us for a loop here. It was like, we don't know how to handle this, but we have to learn. We have to come up with ways to have the program available for our families. DELC policy staff met with other state child care programs also, along with the Oregon Housing Authorities, to find out more about how other agencies or other state agencies, other programs manage long-term wait list. We wanted some ideas of how to try to tackle this. And what we've learned is within the housing programs, they limit families when families can apply. For instance, Multnomah County opened their wait list to applicants for 5 days in 2023. They received about 19,000 applications and they only kept 2,000 for their wait list. And then they pull from those 2,000 as space becomes available. So it's a very, which we know, very slow, cumbersome process of waiting for housing programs. Other states, for example, Indiana and Texas, they required families to update or call us call them every 90 days to remain on the wait list. Louisiana, they must be eligible first to be put on the wait list, and then they have to reapply if they've been on the list for over a year, which that's a lot of tracking for the families or for anyone, period. Texas families, they're screened for basic eligibility first to be placed on the wait list, and then they have to be reapply when they are selected. So exploring waitlist changes. What we don't want to do is definitely we learned so that we don't want to limit when families can apply. We do not want to require families to be determined ERDC eligible to be placed on the wait list. Their circumstances may change. And we don't want to ask families to notify us every 90 days that they wish to remain on the wait list. That's just not something that practices that we want to embrace at all. What we may be able to do is we may not add families who were denied ERDC. We would have to accomplish that through a work item, and that's something that our leadership team would be working on. And then what we may be able to do is also require families to pass a screening for basic eligibility. And also, again, these two items would require work changes within the one system. So it would require future changes. And so how will the refresh work? So on August 13th, the first letters were sent to families on the wait list that were on the list for over 12 months. On 8/14, a case note was added for all impacted families on the one system, and this was done through IT. Workers did not have to go in and do that. And 8/27, our first text was sent to them to people that opted into the SMS texting. 10/1, we will send another reminder letter. 10/15, another text. 10/31, that's when the response window closes at 11:59 p.m. Families will have 2 months to respond to the letters that were sent, asking them if they want to continue to be on the wait list or be removed. And that's why we have these timelines. On 11/10, decision notice is sent to those who did not respond. And the response submission timeframe is open, of course, like I just said, 8/13 through 10/31. Waitlist refresh letters, these are like samples of what we sent with a QR code. Families can respond via that QR code. And we try to simplify it and make it easy for families to be able to connect with us. So that's what we have sent out, and we've sent out the first text reminder, and we're on 10/1. 10/1's the next reminder letter we're going to be sending to the families, and we have so far received about 900 maybe responses so far that we know of, all varied on whether they want to remain or not, but we're going to be monitoring this closely, of course, and then see where all this lands and how we can move forward with this wait list. So I know it's a lot of information fairly quick, but I'm here if you have any questions. Of course, if you have any ideas or any input or any information you'd like to share with us after this meeting, feel free to contact us and email us at childcare.policy@delk.oregon.gov. And we have analysts that we can receive those emails and staff further if we need to, or send them to management. But feel free to connect with us if you have questions, concerns, ideas. We're always excited to hear from anyone.
And Alma, before we get started with questions, can you just remind everybody what your role is?
My apology, yes.
Not at all.
Alma Amador, and I am a child care policy analyst with the Child Care Assistance Program at DELC.
Thank you, Alma. And I'm seeing a couple of questions in the chat. The first is about the November notice. What is the decision notice for those who don't respond? Do they get dropped?
They get removed from the wait list, yes. And they can reapply at any time, except that they would not hold their previous spot. They would have to go back to the end of the wait list.
Thank you, Alma. And I'm seeing another question asking you to please put a PDF of the letter in the chat, just so we can see what it says when families refer to it.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I will send those. And also anyone can help assist families respond to this letter too. So if a family comes or needing assistance, anyone can help them. submit that response, but I will put those in PDF and send them your way.
Thanks, Alma.
Sure.
And if you have a question, feel free to just unmute and ask the question if you have one. I'm not seeing any more questions. Alma, thank you so much for taking the time to share your presentation and be available for questions.
Yes, thank you again for giving us the opportunity. Again, apology, we would have hoped to give this presentation before this rolled out, but it didn't work out this way.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
I think we might have time to squeeze in a break since we are still running ahead of schedule. So if we want to come back, I think our Office of Tribal Affairs was originally scheduled to present at 1:35. And so if we could just kind of come back at that time, I'll just put a slide up and some music on and just go ahead and come back at 1:35.
Welcome back, everyone. We have our final presenters for today. Dana Castano and Paulina Whitehat from Tribal Affairs are here with an update. So I will pass it along to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you. I can go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see my screen? All right,
Yes, thank you.
great. I'll pass it over to Paulina.
Yes, good afternoon. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, thanks, Paulina.
Yes, so good afternoon. It's good to be here and thank you for inviting us to share an update. So I'll introduce myself and Dana can introduce herself. My name is Paulina Whitehat. I am the Tribal Affairs Director at DELC.
And hello, everyone. My name is Dana Castano, and I'm the Oregon Tribal Early Learning Alliance Liaison at DELC. Or OTELA Liaison. I work with the tribes on tribal early learning initiatives. And I'm also glad to be in this space and get to share updates with you. So for the first update, onto the next slide, we just wanted to share what's been going on with House Bill 2815, which is the Tribal Early Learning Plan. So this bill was created because the Tribal Hub statute, that model did not meet the tribe's needs. So in order to respect their sovereignty and maintain the government-to-government relationship with DELC, this bill was created in partnership with the Tribal Advisory Committee, and it passed over this last legislative session, so just a little over a month ago, and it takes effect January 1st. So at that time, it will replace the Tribal Hub statute. School starts tomorrow, so sorry about that. But it will replace the Tribal Hub statute, and so there won't be a Tribal Early Learning Hub at all, but instead there will be this entity, well, not entity, sorry. There will be a Oregon Tribal Early Learning Alliance, which is an advisory body which basically replaces the former Tribal Advisory Committee. And then there's also the Tribal Early Learning Plan. So the bill basically establishes grants directly with each of the tribes to access funding that is flexible to pursue strategies for them to choose that best meet the needs in their communities. So it could be tribal language revitalization, preschool, childcare, home visiting, professional development, and more. So the next thing that I have, I'm going to put a link here in the chat for you all. And move on to the next slide. So this is a map that that we had created with the RAD office. Basically, it's oh, okay. That link should work, but let me know if it doesn't. The map overlays tribal reservation and trust lands with the hub regions. And so on the screen right now, it's just a screenshot, but on the link, the map is actually interactive. So you can zoom in and you can see the name of the tribe and you can change the layers. And what's important about it though, even though it is helpful just to see what tribal nation or lands are nearby or within the region, it is still only part of the story. There's a lot of nuance. So tribes have broader service areas. So just because tribal land is in one county, for instance, it doesn't mean that the tribe isn't actively involved in serving members in another county. Siletz is a great example. The Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians has an 11-county service area. So even though they're based in Lincoln County, they have offices in Salem and Eugene and Portland. The Confederated Tribes of Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw is another example. They're based in Coos County, but they have a 5-county service area. So they also have an office in Eugene, and they serve families in Coos, Curry, Lane, Douglas, and I believe Lincoln County as well. So in addition to that, there's also large populations of urban natives in metro areas like Portland, Salem, and Eugene that might not be members of tribes in Oregon, but there's still a lot of opportunity there. And then in addition, it's very complicated because there's also ceded and unceded land, and ceded land being what was agreed to be given in a treaty. And so that would have been tribes' traditional land. There's also land where tribes have hunting, gathering, or fishing rights. And with mentioning the historical ties to the land, just to give an example, the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians and Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde are both mini tribes that originally came from all over the coast and down to southern Oregon. And earlier this year, the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians actually purchased land in southern Oregon near Table Rock, which has important ties, both ancestral and historical ties to their tribe. So it's hard to explain the full picture in just a couple of minutes, but the point is just because there is or isn't a tribe in a specific hub region, it doesn't mean that there's not a connection or service delivery or even another tribe or tribes that have ties to that region that are important to consider in the work that you do. So I'm going to pass it over to Paulina for the next couple slides.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about tribal consultation and engagement. So I'm going to begin with like the big picture. Tribal consultation happens at different levels of government. First, it begins at the federal to tribal level. And so this consultation stems from treaties and trust responsibilities of the U.S. government to consult with sovereign tribal nations. And here in Oregon, every consultation extends to state to tribal level. And under the statute that's listed there, every state agency is required to consult with tribes on agency actions that may affect them. And this law recognizes the sovereign status of tribes and ensures their voice are part of state decision making. So at DELC, our tribal consultation policy is currently in development, but the principles are already clear. Consultation is a formal government to government process. It's not just information sharing, it's about dialogue, coordination, and ensuring that tribal input is considered before decisions are made. So the best practice is to begin consultation at least 90 days prior to an agency action so that tribes have adequate time to review and provide input. It's also important to note that third parties cannot consult on DELC's behalf. That means grantees, contractors, or partner organizations may engage with tribes, but only DELC as a state agency carries the responsibility for government to government consultation. So after consultation, DELC has an obligation to document tribal input and provide full follow-up to show how tribal input and perspectives influence decisions that were made. This accountability piece is critical for trust. So about tribal engagement. So we just need to distinguish between consultation and engagement. Engagement is different from consultation. Engagement is similar to community engagement. It gives tribes and tribal communities opportunities to share feedback on work plans, services, and programs. Engagement is valuable, but it does not replace consultation. Only government to government consultation satisfies state laws and respects sovereignty. However, all DELC grantees and contractors are expected to engage with tribes in culturally respectful ways. That means honoring tribal timelines, acknowledging capacity, and following cultural protocols, such as sometimes there might be openings that include blessings or including elders when it's appropriate. So to summarize, consultation is formal, government to government, and legally required. Engagement is broader, ongoing, and expected of everyone working with DELC programs and those who serve tribal children and families. So both are essential. Consultation ensures sovereignty is honored in decision making, while engagement builds the relationship and partnerships that strengthen our early learning system with tribes. So together they ensure that DELC's work with tribal nations is collaborative, responsive, and respectful. So in the next slide, I'm going to talk about best practices for working with tribes. So we'll review some key practices for working with tribes, and these practices are grounded in sovereignty, respect, and accountability. They're essential for building meaningful partnerships and ensuring government to government consultation is done well. So first is recognizing tribal sovereignty, which is foundation. Each tribe is its own government and with its own history, traditions, laws, and government systems. And so that means that no two tribes are the same. So we must avoid generalizations about tribes, and approaching each tribe individually honors their sovereignty and ensures that we don't assume a one-size-fits-all model in our approach when working with tribes. So building relationships takes time and patience. So be patient because trust is earned through consistent respect and follow through. And then also engage tribes early. So ideally before a project or a policy begins or is changed, Strong relationships are built over time, and trust isn't established in one meeting. It's developed over consistent and respectful interactions. And remember that tribes have their own timelines, their own processes and capacity. So allowing time and flexibility shows respect for sovereignty and for their self-determination. And then also preparation matters. Preparation shows respect. So do your homework, learn about the tribe before reaching out to them, understand who is authorized to collaborate, and then also who makes the decisions. Sometimes it's the same people, sometimes it's different people. It's also important to clarify the difference between consultation and engagement. Formal consultation is government to government and can only be done by state agencies. Engagement is much broader. It includes grantees and contractors and other partnership organizations. They can engage by gathering feedback and building partnerships with the tribes. And then another is showing respect. Treat tribal leaders with the same regard as you would to state or federal leaders, or even leaders of other nations. Honor elders and traditional knowledge keepers. They hold respected roles in their communities. And be mindful of cultural protocols, whether it's starting with a blessing or ending, like blessing food, or there might be a song or a prayer that's offered during meetings. And then there might be like land acknowledgements or observing other traditional practices. And remember that respect must guide every interaction. And then the next piece is accountability. Always document tribal input and clearly show how it influenced your decisions, and provide follow-up so that tribes can see how their voices were considered and how they were input into any process that you have. And then following through builds trust and strengthens long-term partnerships. And accountability is a part of consultation. So some of the key takeaways is that sovereignty is first. Every tribe is a government, and build relationships with patience and respect tribal timelines, and prepare before you engage, and know the difference between consultation and engagement. And finally, close the loop by documenting input and providing follow-up. So these practices help ensure DELC's work with tribe is collaborative, respectful, and effective.
Thank you, Paulina. So now we have questions for you. So we have 2 questions and about 6 to 7 minutes that we could spend on each of them. So we'd just like to hear from Hub Director, so you can come off mute or type answers in the chat. So for the first question, what is a successful connection you've had with tribes?
So I can speak to that regarding intermountain ESD here in Pendleton, Oregon. A few years ago, our early learning program, primarily our early intervention, early childhood special education, formed a connection with our local tribe on the Umatilla Indian Reservation. And we started as a classroom. So any students that identify as Native American, are placed in that classroom, and it started as some of our local tribal members and IMESD employees were actually facilitating that classroom. And then our collaboration continued to grow. We started doing home visits as well, and we evaluate students. We used to bring them to Pendleton to evaluate them, but we found that families wouldn't always follow through when they had to come to Pendleton. And so we started evaluating on the reservation, and then that continued to grow. And so we've had probably 3 to 4 successful years now. I think it's it's the only one in Oregon and potentially one of the only ones in the nation.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. I've seen that classroom actually at
Oh,
their
yeah.
building.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's awesome.
Our coordinator and I started that classroom, so it's been really successful. It's been great.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So what are some pieces that made that engagement and that connection successful?
I think the things that you spoke about, building that connection, forming that trust. I actually grew up on the reservation, um, and I started recruiting some people to come and work for Intermountain ESC, kind of proposing the idea to them. I think being a native of Pendleton, really helped small towns. It's easy to get to know one another. So basically, it just goes back to what you were talking about. Having a trusting relationship, participating in meetings, collaborating, and then we proposed the ideas and just worked together on it and got it going.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And what are some other connections that people have made in working with tribes?
There's a comment in the chat about the tribe holding a voting spot on the governance board for Blue Mountain Early Learning Hub.
I could keep talking if no one else is going to, but something that worked for us is just finding the common connection. So we approached it with, we wanted students to have the highest quality services. That wasn't necessarily happening. They had kind of struggled to fill their Head Start classroom out there, struggled like a lot of us to find staff that would stay long term. And so we just built that common connection of how do we provide an inclusive environment where we can best support our students and families. So finding that common ground and then working together towards it was what really worked for us.
Thank you for sharing more. I see another comment in the chat. We're in a region without a federally recognized tribe, but an active presence of the Chinook Indian Nation. Wondering a little about recommendations for working with tribes without federal recognition.
Yeah, that's a good question from Abby about working with tribes that don't have recognition from a state or from the federal government. They are I know some of them are actively seeking recognition, and in the meantime, it's good to still engage with them because they are still a distinct community that has unique needs and unique population that needs to be served in the meantime. So yeah, it's best practice to engage with them still, because they are a tribal community, and it's the powers that be that have come into play to take away some recognition and just some unfair policies and practices of the past that that really shouldn't deter the hubs from working with tribes, regardless of their status.
And there's another comment in the chat. Clackamas County contains only a very small part of the tribal land of Warm Springs, but it's barely populated there. Outside of that, most of our families would receive services from Grand Ronde, so we don't do as much as I wish and are trying to do more. And I guess that's a good segue into our next question, actually, which is, how can the Office of Tribal Affairs support your work with and/or outreach efforts to tribes?
Shira, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for this presentation. It's really helpful. We are in the Four Rivers area, and so we don't have necessarily one tribal council. We do work really closely with our Native American liaison that is hired by the CGESD, and actually she was just honored as the GNAC honorary partner of the year. GNAC is our Gorge Native American Coalition that we work closely with. But I think for us, it's one thing that would be helpful is helping to make those connections, and also like I think helping us get clear on our ask and then the process in which we ask. For example, thinking about having a governance board member who has a tribal voice on our governance council. Who do I speak to? Where do I start? Like you said, not every tribe is unique, and I don't want to assume that one voice represents all tribes, but kind of looking at where to start would be really helpful. And just like to help make those connections, we are taking our time and having those meetings and showing up. And we just had our huge GNAC had a huge event, and we always participate anytime that we could share resources. But kind of moving to that next level past showing up, I think would be helpful. Thank you.
Jen, I'm wondering if you'd like to share, to unmute and share what you just wrote in the chat.
Sure, I can. I mean, it's not anywhere near the partnership that I would love to have with the tribe, in the sense that I've really been trying to get someone on my governance board. I'm working down a list of connections, and then if I get to the bottom without success, I'll be reaching out to one of you two for some support with that. We have connections. We've been told they just don't have bandwidth. And so how to build those connections when the conversation is there, there's just not, they just don't have the bandwidth. But we do have some partnerships that I've really enjoyed, which is, around early literacy and some overlaying of early literacy with social emotional skill development and mental health supports within the Grand Ronde community. And then we also purchased, there are some books, bilingual books that are tribal, that reflect the tribal culture. And so we purchased a bunch of those to go alongside our Spanish bilingual books when we do outreach in the community, especially if we're going to be out in the West Valley. So appreciate those connections that we do have.
Yeah, Jen, thank you for sharing. And then also wondering about like what the next level or the next step in the engagement looks like. So I see that you're somehow connected with the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. Is that what I'm getting?
Yes.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay, so that is one of the first steps to establish that. And then I would engage with them to see like how you can be of help to them, like where you are, and in sharing the types of resources that you have to offer or services. And then like with any kind of resources, ask them like for their input. Um, like what would they like to see like for their tribal members or their community, as well as with the general population. I know that, just getting the word out there about each tribe, that they exist, that they're there, and then they might also have some recommendation for like certain materials or types of training or professional development that they're interested in. Sometimes they're not quite sure who to approach because it's not very clear. And that's been some of the feedback that we've heard when we're out in community or getting feedback from folks who work with the tribal early learning programs, is that they're not really clear like what kind of like who does what, and like what does DELC do, and what do the hubs do, and who to contact, and what kind of services that can they get connected over. So just making that clear, and if they have an event, maybe have somebody attend that to learn more about what's happening, and then to have a presence or even have a table at the event to share some of this information. So those are like kind of what I'm thinking. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. And Dana, maybe you have some ideas too, or anybody else.
Yeah,
We have-
no, definitely.
Oh, go ahead, Dana.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I'm typing in the chat, and I guess I'll also answer this. If what you need, so for like the question earlier from Shira, is that how you say your name? Shira from Four Rivers. Anyway,
Yes, that's correct, Shira. Yes.
okay, perfect. But we can always help with connecting you to someone that is within the tribe's early learning or education department, depending on all of the tribes being different. Sometimes they fall under different departments, but we could always help with making that introduction. And I'll put our contact information here in the chat, but it's also on the last slide for the slide deck, which I think was also shared out. So if you need to reference it later outside of this Zoom chat, you'll have it there as well.
Are there any other questions for Dana and Paulina?
I was just going to have just one last thing to
Okay.
share. I do see the question in the chat about if the Office of Tribal Affairs maintains a list of potential contacts for each of the tribes that would resonate with early learning. Yeah, we do have some, contacts with each tribe. And I think one of the reasons that's not really listed or available for the general public is sometimes, as someone mentioned earlier, sometimes turnover happens with the tribes, and you know, if you put a name up there and then a few months later, that person may not be there anymore. So, you know, people are trying to contact, you know, old contact information, and that doesn't work. So I think that's maybe one of the reasons why they don't really post their contacts externally. So yeah, you can reach out to either one of us. We can put you in touch with who's, you know, who you're trying to contact.
Thank you so much for such an informative presentation. I know I learned a lot, and we'll be sure and share that out again in the recap email. Paulina and Dana, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
And with that, I think we will move to a wrap up, and just to thank all of you for spending some time together at our first Hub Directors meeting in a couple of months. It was great to see everyone. As always, we want to hear how the meeting went for you, ways that we can improve it. We'll put the exit survey here in the chat. Please take a moment to fill that out. We read every entry really carefully and make changes as a result. Maria, I'll pass it along to you to see if you've got anything else to share.
No, just a quick reminder for our KPI peer learning tomorrow. It's going to be a really great one. We're going to have the PSU team going over the case study, and we'll just have a really great meeting. So tomorrow, 9 a.m., just a quick reminder for that one.
Thank you all. And Maria and I will hang out for a little bit on the call if you have any questions for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.